Recently, Stellar Blade got a huge re-reveal at the Sony State of Play, demonstrating impressive visuals, gameplay, and music. I've been deeply interested in Stellar Blade all the way back since it was known as Project Eve in 2019, with visuals that look quite a bit different than the game that we currently see right now before us. As a result, it has been truly and deeply satisfying to see this game come together over the years. A game that could have been quickly labeled a Nier Automata clone has very much developed its own identity, and today we got a ton of details regarding its gameplay, story, and development. So please go ahead and hit that subscribe button because we talk all things Stellar Blade the moment that it happens. So Stellar Blade has shown off a lot of linear sections, but it's also shown a lot of wider zones. It had me curious on what the gameplay structure of this game was going to be like, and in this recent interview with IGN Japan, it's revealed that they'll be taking a hybrid approach, with them being asked, quote, regarding the game's areas, what kind of structure is the field in Stellar Blade? Kim, the beginning of the game has a linear structure, but it still allows for a wide range of exploration. Once you enter the city of Zion, it becomes a semi-open world where you can freely explore. After that, you'll go to another linear area. So we're mixing linear scenes with open world. We believe that users will be able to enjoy a seamless and smooth experience without any interruptions. This is something that many of my favorite games already do, such as Nier Automata, which has a semi-open world that is also filled with linear sections that give the feeling of a more on-rails action game. The recent God of War games are also a perfect example of this as well. Many people were thinking that this was going to be stages like in a traditional action game like a Devil May Cry, where you complete different stages and then you go to the next stage. This game leans slightly more RPG than those types of pure action games. He then continues by telling more about the exploration in Zion, with him saying, Stellar Blade is basically an action game, but there are survivors living in Zion, and you'll interact with them. There are many residents with problems, and the player will help restore the city to normal by solving them. You can interact with NPCs in town and accept and complete various quests from them. There are various quests such as finding people, rescuing people, activating certain devices, and battle specific enemies. It also includes elements that allow you to experience daily life in Zion, such as fishing and collecting items. That's right, fishing has been confirmed for Stellar Blade, which officially makes it an honorary JRPG. So again, as you can see, Stellar Blade is not just another action game, there's also a lot of adventure and RPG elements in there as well, and I'm really excited that they've decided to use this style of gameplay as opposed to something a lot more restricted. Of course, you'll also have a skill tree in order to unlock new skills, abilities, and etc. Currency that you'll get from most likely defeating enemies and completing quests. They also mentioned in this interview that there will be 20 to 30 types of costume for Eve, as well as costumes for Adam and Lily. So there's going to be plenty of customization for how you want your character to look, and honestly, Eve is such a beautifully designed character. I am definitely going to be collecting and experimenting with all the costumes in the game. It isn't directly mentioned if these costumes influence stats or not, so I'm under the impression that these aren't armor, they're purely cosmetic. In terms of the influences that inspired Stellar Blade, there is a lot of interesting things to be said here, with Kim saying that the worldview of Stellar Blade is designed by mixing cultures such as Hong Kong, Japan, China, and Korea. And he says, rather than wanting to represent the culture of a particular country, Zion becomes a city built by its people to survive. However, I have enjoyed a variety of cultures, and I am influenced by the dystopian science fiction works of the 1980s and 1990s. He says that of those works, Battle Angel Alita and Nier Automata are two of the biggest, but they aren't the only ones. Other influences included Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and Bayonetta. He was also absolutely based enough to include God of War, citing it as one of his favorite games. Going back to the game's mix of open world and linearity, he says that the God of War games were a huge inspiration for that. It's really interesting to see that because God of War's world structure wasn't just a huge inspiration for Stellar Blade, it was also a huge inspiration for Final Fantasy XVI. And of course, as a huge God of War fan, I do love seeing it being the inspiration for so many titles. But those inspirations aren't just limited to games, as he also cites science fiction movies from the 80s and 90s such as Blade Runner as inspiration. But now it is time to talk about the star of the show, that is the battle system. Kim was asked, regarding battles, you can see actions such as parries and evasions in the trailer. Tell us more about the battle system in Stellar Blade. Here is what he had to say. Basically, the game game is played by making full use of combos, but it's not just about attacking unilaterally. It's also important to read and react to enemies' attacks. It is important to aim for a parry or just dodge, and then perform a perfect combo right after that. As you improve, you'll be able to enjoy very speedy attacks and defenses. That is to say that it is indeed an action game. Indeed, who would have guessed that? But there is a lot more to it. He was asked, in terms of the battle system, what are the unique features of Stellar Blade? Stellar Blade has a very versatile number of combos. Depending on the situation, it'll be important to decide which skill to use to defeat the enemy. There are also long-range weapons, so you can enjoy using a variety of weapons in third-person shooter mode. There are also stages and dungeons where long-range weapons become important. I think the fusion of sword fighting action and third-person shooting creates a unique play experience. It may sound like a complicated and difficult game because there are so many elements, but it also has a difficulty adjustment function, making it a game that can be enjoyed in many different ways. I think this is a work that will satisfy both those who are not good at action games and those who are actually good at it. So if you're worried this is going to be a Soulsborne game with no customizable difficulties, that's not going to be the case. You will be able to find a difficulty that is appropriate for you. As far as the blend of swordplay and long-range weapons goes, we've seen some of this in the trailer. Eve can be seen switching between swords and guns, and so the battle system will have you doing combos, parries, and all the things you'd expect from a sword-based action game, while switching into third-person shooter mode in order to use long-range weapons. This sounds like the game will have a decent amount of variety to it, and I hope so, as that is absolutely key to any successful action game. Of course, the highlight of every action game is always going to be the incredible boss fights. And from what we've already seen of Stellar Blade's gameplay footage, this game is not short on incredible boss fights. These look stunning. Yes, it is taking everything in me to not say these look stellar. I'm trying my best. I am not going to say this looks stellar. It's too much of a dad joke. Kim was asked, the official website says, in boss battles, not only strength, but also wisdom is key. Does this mean that there is an element of puzzle solving in boss battles? He replied, boss battles are one of the most important contents in Stellar Blade. Each boss has a unique attack pattern, so it's not just a matter of guarding them. There are a variety of gimmicks available, so players can acquire various skills and use them to create opportunities. Depending on the situation, you may be able to interrupt the boss's skills and counterattack. I won't give a specific example because it would be a spoiler, but a lot of effort is put into the boss battles. Stellar Blade, of course, is launching in April, and it is going to be an insane year for fans of action games, because not only is there this, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, as well there is also Dragon's Dogma 2 and Rise of the Ronin. 2024 is absolutely packed with action RPG hybrid games, and there is a ton of them just within the first quarter of this year alone. Of course, this is my favorite genre of games, so I have absolutely no complaints. However, I really think the strong visual style, the beautiful character designs, the absolutely gorgeous music, which I also want to say pulled a lot of inspiration from Nier as well. I think that despite a lot of major heavy hitters hitting around the same time, Stellar Blade is going to still be an outstanding title. That being said, if you are watching this the day of upload, I am going to be streaming the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth State of Play tomorrow. So go ahead and click the thumbnail on screen and smash that notify me button so you can know the moment that we go live. And I'll see you all in the next video.